One person maybe? Yeah? Okay. Well, this is a different type of meditation than what normally happens in the Tuesday class. This is a compassion meditation, and it's in Tibetan. Tong means sending or giving, and Len means taking or receiving. So we're going to be working with our breath to take in suffering and breathe out compassion. And I'll provide a lot of instruction for us, since this is pretty new for everybody. So I want to start by reading a little bit about the Tonglen practice from Pema Chodron in one of her teachings called Transforming the Heart of Suffering. So she says, in order to have compassion for others, we have to have compassion for ourselves. The Tonglen practice is a method for connecting with suffering, ours and that which is all around us, everywhere we go. It's a method for overcoming fear of suffering and for dissolving the tightness in our heart. Primarily, it is a method for awakening the compassion that is inherent in all of us, no matter how cruel or cold we might seem to be. The first person you practice Tonglen for should be yourself. It's true that people fear Tonglen practice because it can be tough to relate with suffering so directly. I have found that it's less overwhelming if you start your practice with experiencing of suffering, your own experience of suffering, and then generalize to all the other people who are feeling what you feel. That gives you a way to work with your pain. Instead of feeling like you're increasing your suffering, you're making it meaningful. So if you start with yourself as the reference point and extend out from that, you find that your compassion becomes much more spontaneous and real. You have less fear of the suffering you perceive in the world, yours and other people's. The next stage of the practice is that we move on to a person, a group of people, or an animal we know to be suffering and whom we wish to help. For instance, if you know of a child that is suffering, you breathe in the wish to take away all of their pain and fear. Then, as you breathe out, you send the child happiness, joy, or whatever would relieve their pain. This is the core of the practice. Breathing in others' pain so they can be well and have more space to relax and open, and breathing out, sending them relaxation or whatever you feel would bring them relief and happiness. If we feel we cannot do this practice because we have come face to face with our own fear, our own resistance, anger, or personal pain, personal stuckness that happens to be there, at this point, we can change the focus back to ourselves and begin to do Tonglen for what we're feeling and for what millions of others just like us who at the very moment are feeling that same stuckness or misery. Maybe you are able to name your pain. You recognize it clearly as terror or revulsion or anger. So you breathe in for all the people who are caught with that same emotion, and you send out relief, or whatever opens up the space for yourself and all those countless others. Maybe you can feel the feeling of a tightness in the stomach, a heavy darkness, or whatever. Just contact what you're feeling and breathe it in, take it in for all of us, and send out relief to all of us. So I'll just provide a few instructions before we begin the meditation. So what we're going to practice tonight has 5 phases to it. And the first phase is that we're going to ground ourselves and settle into the meditation. The second phase is we're going to visualize the energy of suffering and the relief of suffering. So what that looks like is that we're going to imagine breathing in a feeling of heat, darkness, and heaviness, and breathing out a cool, bright light. And then we'll start to focus on a personal situation, breathing in our own suffering and breathing out compassion for ourselves. Next, we'll practice breathing in another person's suffering, or an animal or a group of people, and breathing out compassion for them. We can do this part of the practice for someone we care about and wish to help. And again, if you get stuck here and that doesn't feel right in the moment, just come back to focusing on yourself, and for all of those people who are feeling that same type of suffering that you're experiencing. And then finally, we'll expand our compassion to all those beings who are suffering out there. And this meditation can be a little bit intense, especially if you've never practiced it before. So if it's not working for you, just drop the Tonglen and focus on your breath. Focus on breathing in, knowing you're breathing in, and breathing out, knowing you're breathing out. You don't have to do the Tonglen if it doesn't feel right for you. So I'll guide us through the meditation, and I'll ring the bell 3 times as we begin, and then again 3 times as we finish. So find a seat that's comfortable for you. Sitting up nice and tall, eyes closed if that feels comfortable, hands resting gently in the lap. You want to be sitting up straight so that you still have some awareness in your body, but not so rigid, right, that you can't relax into your breath. Start by taking 3 deep breaths. Eventually setting into a natural rhythm of the breath. Gently allowing your awareness to scan through your body, softening and releasing obvious areas of physical tension. Relax the shoulders, soften the hands, relax the belly. As thoughts arise, recognize them and come back to the present moment, returning attention to the breath. Breathing in, follow breath in. Breathing out, follow breath out. On your in-breath, begin to visualize a cloud of hot, dark, heavy smoke. And on your out-breath, imagine breathing out cool, bright light. Breathing in completely, taking in that cloud of hot, dark, heavy smoke, and breathing out completely, exhaling cool, bright light. Just continue breathing in this way until your visualization is synchronized with your in and out breaths. Now beginning to focus on a personal situation, something that's painful for you. This can be any kind of pain or suffering, from the big, profound things to the everyday, mundane things that kind of just get under your skin. Just imagine this situation in your mind. And on your inhale, breathe in the pain you are experiencing, imagining it as a cloud of hot, dark, heavy smoke that dissolves in your heart. And on your exhale, opening your heart to compassion, breathing out cool, bright light. Breathing in suffering, breathing out compassion. Breathing in a cloud of hot, dark, heavy smoke. Breathing out cool, bright light. Now shifting your focus to someone or something you know who is in pain. Maybe an animal or a group of people, and whom you wish to help. Imagine seeing this person, animal, or group in your mind. And on your inhale, breathing in the pain they are experiencing, imagining that pain as a cloud of hot, dark, heavy smoke that dissolves in your heart. And on your exhale, opening your heart to compassion, breathing out cool, bright light. Breathing in suffering, breathing out compassion. Breathing in a cloud of hot, dark, heavy smoke. Breathing out cool, bright light. Finally, make the taking in and sending out bigger, extending our compassion to all those who are suffering in the same way, making it bigger than just yourself or that one person or animal who you wish to help. Breathing in their pain and breathing out compassion. Breathing in a cloud of hot, dark, heavy smoke. Breathing out cool, bright light. once again, taking 3 deep breaths. Anyone like to share how that meditation felt for them?
I like the idea of breathing in, so I breathe in and movement with that.
You have a beautiful voice and you're very clear. And that's why I have to sit close because I have a terrible hearing impairment. But I can hear you very well.
Imagining breathing in the heavy black smoke is very unpleasant. As it should be.
Yeah, I personally, I really struggle with this meditation, which is why I do it. Because I have a lot of resistance to that very thing, to breathing in that dark, heavy energy. And so it's taken me a lot of practice to be able to just sit and actually do it.
I feel like it was one of the more selfless ways I've meditated. I don't normally see it as a way of taking on excess from others, but more releasing any for myself. So I really like it.
It's also given a metta, no?
Yeah, so the metta meditation is also a compassion meditation, and I think the distinction here is that we're actually taking in another being's suffering, right? Whereas in metta, we are imagining somebody that different people like ourselves and a benefactor and an enemy and whatever that we want to send compassion to. But in the Tonglen practice, we're actually taking in their suffering and then offering compassion to them. Yeah.
I have a hard time taking a visual in a cloud and projecting suffering into a visual like symbol. Mm-hmm. And then, you know what I'm saying? Like it kind of feels arbitrary to me. Mm-hmm. I have a hard time actually feeling like I'm doing something, you know? Just a taste practice.
Yeah, for sure.
For some reason, it didn't occur to me that breathing in the smoke was like a negative thing until somebody said something. I don't know, maybe because I'm a smoker or something. I have a friend, a close friend, who's been going through a lot of stuff, and it's been really affecting me. So it was like kind of nice to like not resist feeling compassion for them. That was helpful.
Every time the meditation shifted to a different focus, I could tell my emotions were shifting with it very clearly. It was very interesting to see how my body reacted to visualizing like a different breadth or width of compassion. And
changed the metaphor just now with dark, heavy energy. I actually believe I could do that, but I've lived through the fires too many times to be able to breathe in smaller. Yeah, so the energy, I tried to think of a substitute. I'm glad you said it out.
I think I resisted the, when we got to the point where we're spreading it outside about the personal, right, where we're expanding, I kept going back to individuals, right? Like it just seemed to, I don't know why I resisted, but there was an absolute like now, please stay right here with these people that I know. So
That's perfect. Yeah, you do what works for you in the moment.
When you were first explaining the meditation, I was feeling a little overwhelmed. Like, oh my God, it's 5 steps, this is something. We have a booklet for this. And then, I went through it, and especially when you brought to the part of breathing in the darker, heavy energy. I did not so much see a cloud in front of me this way. I sort of visualized it like sort of all around me, sort of like membranes around me. And I wasn't afraid because I realized this is already a part of me. And I went very deep, so don't be paralyzed by the snoring. But, you gotta know, I guess. But if I did or not, I don't know. However, in my mind, I felt fully alert the entire time when I was in there, very much at peace. And then I felt like my inner being was transforming or accepting that suffering that's around me and it's a part of me, and just changing the light of it. At first it was very dark and bringing some light out, and so there's little, 400,000 shades of gray. Very powerful meditation, not what I expected at all when I was first doing it, and I'd like to do it some more. Thank you.
One of the things I'm recognizing that this can be very tricky for me because I know as a woman, I tend to be compassionate, I tend to be a caretaker, I tend to think of myself and help others. And I just felt like when we were doing the meditation, my shoulders got tight because I felt there was some tension there. I felt like, oh, I gotta be careful. This is tricky. Where are the boundaries from taking care of yourself versus taking it in?
Yeah.
I like to think about in a situation like this that we are each putting good intentions, positive intentions, and that maybe there's some external power, the universe, where we thought was founded from the collective good intentions that we have, and that I feel like I'm receiving and giving at the same time, and there's a tiny extra bit that stays with me and makes me stronger for next time, so I can more positive influence next time.
Yeah. And thank you. And just back to the previous comment, I think that that's really good awareness of where you are in the meditation, and you can always just come back to yourself. Just like in the metta meditation, you can just stay with yourself and offer yourself compassion the whole time. And you can also just drop the Tonglen completely, right? And focus on your breath. So I think it's really beautiful that you just kind of listen to where you were.
Yeah. I really liked that the smoke was kind of like dissolving in our heart before we kind of like breathed out the light. I also have a friend who's really struggling. It was kind of nice to kind of feel like I could bring some light to the situation. Like you were kind of
generating the emotional part of this, but the effort kept me focused and really kept my mind from wandering. So I don't know that I need to practice it more to feel like I really sensed what you were talking about, but I appreciate the consistent effort, the opportunity for consistent effort because my mind tends to wander and less so.
So I'll read a little bit more about what Pema Chodron has to say about Tonglen as a compassion practice. So she says, people often say that this practice goes against the grain of how we usually hold ourselves together. Truthfully, this practice does go against the grain of wanting things on our own terms, of wanting it to work out for ourselves no matter what happens to the others. The practice dissolves the armor of self-protection we've tried so hard to create around ourselves. In Buddhist language, one would say that it dissolves the fixation and clinging of ego. Tonglen reverses the usual logic of avoiding suffering and seeking pleasure, and in the process, we become liberated from a very ancient prison of selfishness. We begin to feel love for both ourselves and others, and we also begin to take care of ourselves and others. It awakens our compassion, and it also introduces us to a far larger view of reality. Rather than beating yourself up, use your own stuckness as a stepping stone to understanding what people are up against all over the world. Breathe in for all of us, and breathe out for all of us. Use what seems like poison as medicine. Use your personal suffering as the path to compassion for all beings. Tonglen can be done either as a formal meditation practice or right on the spot at any time. For example, if you're out walking and you see someone in pain, right on the spot, you can begin to breathe in their pain and send out some relief. Or more likely, you might see someone in pain and look away because it brings up your fear or anger. It brings up your resistance and confusion. So on the spot, you can do Tonglen for all the people who are just like you. For everyone who wishes to be compassionate, but instead is afraid. So I can really relate to what Pema's talking about, especially the part about when we see somebody in pain and we might look away. So I'll just share like a little personal story about this. So where I really learned about kind of the on-the-spot Tonglen meditation was through one of my best friends, Carla, who runs an animal hospice. So I've always been really compassionate for animals. And, you know, many years ago before I started coming here and practicing meditation and Buddhism, I kind of just thought like, well, I'm compassionate for animals. So like I check the compassion box, right? Like that's it. I'm a good person. I'm done. I don't need to do anything else with compassion. And I kind of thought, well, my friend Carla, she must be the same way. She's got this animal thing going on. That's how she's compassionate. That's her thing. But as I got to know her, I realized that her compassion extends everywhere. Like it has no boundaries. And so, for instance, I went one time with her to Sprouts to get some like vegan cookies or something. And we saw a man who was experiencing homelessness sleeping in front of the Sprouts. And, you know, my knee-jerk reaction was, to be honest, to look away from this man's suffering, to turn away. Because like I had the compassion thing covered with the animals. But Carla just leaned right in. She went right up to the man and she was like, hey, how are you doing? What do you need? Can I go in the store and get you some food? And Carla doesn't have any money. She has no money, right? But she talked to the man. She showed him compassion. She asked him what kind of food he wanted. She went in the store, bought him food. She came out of the store and she's like, hey, do you also need some socks? I have socks in my car for this very purpose. And so we had to go out to her car and like rifle through all these millions of like mismatched socks until she found the right socks that she wanted to give the man, right? Brought him the socks. And so what should have been like a 5-minute trip into Sprouts was like this 45-minute, journey with her. And I just kind of sat there like blown away by her actions. To see that her compassion, she was doing so much for the animals, and to just see that she was like, yeah, well, but what about everybody else, right? My compassion can extend to all of the beings everywhere. And so that's really, it kind of changed my life and the way that I was perceiving my own compassion. So, I mean, I just have a question for this group. What feels challenging for you about practicing kind of like that on-the-spot compassion? Like when you see others suffering, in the moment, how do you respond? Yeah.
When I was really young, I was kind of that person. And then when I didn't know boundaries, so as I got older, people exploited that and took advantage, and it became a habit to put that wall up. And then the line between setting boundaries and being selfish gets kind of blurry. And that was a really good reminder, with a little experience, you can kind of be both. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
I think for me, a lot of it is there's so much going on in the world, and it can be so overwhelming that tune things out because it's like how can I make any sort of impact? And coming here and conditioning myself to be more present in the moment. So and then trying to practice that in a very real way. So I may not be able to impact the world at large, but on a single moment, like your friend did, I can do that, and I can relieve some of the suffering in the world. And so, like you're saying about a moment where I was in the grocery store, I was late to work, and I just handed it out there, and I did the customer like, how are you doing? And the clerk was like, I'm having a bad day, and I was like, crap, you need to get out of here. I don't have time for this. And that's it. But then all of this came into play, and I stopped and engaged and talked to her and for a little bit, and then was like, well, maybe think about something that you're really grateful for. That's what I try to do, and we left it at that. I still rushed to get out of there, but I did, and then of course I got in the car and beat myself up of like, well, you should have spent more time. But I don't know, in that trying to apply this and the not rushing through the things that I feel are ugly or uncomfortable, because I have an opportunity there to relieve a little bit of that in the world at large.
I used to do the same thing when I saw homeless people in my immediate reactions to the way kind of what's there. And experiencing life, I became very humble. When I see homeless people, I see myself reflected in them. I see that could be me, my circumstances. So with that, I feel privilege. Privilege is really my gratitude. I have in life, I can afford to live in a nice place with food on my table. But with that, privilege also comes a little bit of guilt. What more can I do? And I do little things, but I'm thinking, there's so much more. What more could I do? So there's a little bit of guilt with that too, if that makes sense.
I have a standing principle that if anybody asks for help, which includes change, I give it just out of that. And I kind of made that a hard and fast rule a long time ago. But the funny thing is over time, my muscle for that has grown to the point where now I ask people if they need help before they can approach me. And I think just like everything else, it is a muscle. And I know there's a lot of times, especially depending on how people look, like I'm afraid. And a lot of it has to do not so much with physical fear. It's like, what mental health issue am I going to start talking to right now? Right? What's going to make me uncomfortable and reflect back on me? But sometimes you just sit and listen. And, you know, you give them a few extra dollars or whatever. I mean, this is definitely in this realm of homeless people, and I try to do that everywhere. You always learn something. You always like walk away going, that was better time spent, at least in my opinion. Every time I thought that was better time spent. And then I get fired from work. No, I'm good. But I mean, it's always, I never walk away going, I shouldn't have talked to that person. I shouldn't have like engaged. And I think meta-criticizing that, just like after meditation, Jeff has us meta-criticize how we feel from before we left. It's very important for building that muscle.
It's so true, it's what he's saying. Unfortunately, all homeless people are not nice people. I used to make a lot of spaghetti and put it in styrofoam plates and take it and hand it out to some of the homeless. There's been more than one time that I've had people throw that spaghetti at me because they wanted money. So I don't do spaghetti anymore. But what I do, I ride my bike in the morning, and I always take a $5 bill with me. And when I see somebody that's really distressed, they'll always take the $5, and they usually say thank you or God bless you. It's okay. I just ride away. I don't want them knowing who I am or where I live. I just want them to have the $5 because I feel good about it. But you have to approach these people with caution. Like the general said. You don't know what state of mind they're in. So I do it because I feel good about them.
Just in general in the story, in fact, kind of hit on this, is just this slowing down. You ask, like, what is a barrier to this? And it's sometimes just even paying attention. Because I'm guilty of this. I'm just constantly doing a million and one things. Just you don't even recognize or acknowledge the stuff going on. So just slowing down.
I have a control problem with compassion. So compassion often to me means removing people's suffering, which means controlling other people's suffering. My mind gets to that, and often I fail, which in control neighborhood gives a positive feedback of not doing the compassion thing. So,
Yeah, I think, offering compassion to others can be tricky, right? So like Pema said, like the first person we offer compassion to always is ourselves, right? Sometimes that's the thing we need to practice the most.
Going off that thought, something that I struggle with is just with kind of how discourse is now, especially with politics, it's hard to have compassion for people that you feel like you disagree with. Like there's a lot of, okay, if I don't agree with this person, that means they're against me, that means they're trying to harm me. It's easy to have compassion with people that you identify with. It's a lot more challenging to have compassion with people that you feel like are like so different from you. And there's almost like this, I don't know, maybe other people feel this is like this sick pleasure in like seeing someone you disagree with suffering. And it's just something that I really struggle with. To see, like, yeah, I disagree with them, but like they're still a person for whatever beliefs they have, those come from a place of like how they were raised or what culture they're from. And like suffering is suffering, even if I don't understand it. That's something I struggle with.
Me too.
something like that happened in my neighborhood. I started cleaning up trash in the stream in Lamar Park in Spring Valley, like during the pandemic. There's just this constant stream of trash where I could clean up for a couple hours a day, and it would just never be gone because there's so many homeless people who live in the drainage sewers. And I found out that there were these two groups that were also cleaning up trash. There's like the Spring Valley Community Alliance and the Spring Valley Cleanup Crew. And like one of them was trying to push all of the homeless people out of the neighborhood, and the other one was trying to give the homeless people like food cards and like try to reach out to them and kind of help them stay in the neighborhood, but just kind of live with them or something. But they also work together to clean up trash in the neighborhood, even though they have this huge political disagreement about what to do about the homeless people. And so they are united on this environmental project, but then they can't understand like this more like complicated issue of how to help these people that they don't necessarily get along with, I guess. Yeah.
As far as like what's a barrier, I feel like honestly like my mood is sometimes a barrier. If I'm in a good mood, I can have compassion for other people because I have like the space for it. But if I'm in a bad mood, I just like feel like I don't have the energy. I'm so self-involved and so into myself and my problems and my issues. I don't have the space that I would like to work on even being able to separate from myself and feel for other people for a second. Yeah, it's not real compassion. You only have it sometimes.
Yeah, I really struggle with that too. And I had always thought like, okay, I have to just worry about me right now. But then I figured out that if I just help a person when I'm in that state, like just a cyclone of like, oh my God, I'm having a hard time, gotta take care of myself. If I like do even a small act of like, somebody brought up like a cashier who was maybe grumpy, right? If I just like ask a cashier like, hey, how's your day going? That can shift, actually like for me, it can like shift my mood and break me out of that like crazy cyclone, right? It's really hard.
No, it definitely does. It's
Yeah.
hard to remember the moment.
It's so hard to remember. Yeah, it's a practice.
So one thing that I'm thinking about is compassion fatigue. So for work, I'm a social worker, and I work with kids and I work with foster youth primarily. And that is incredibly difficult sometimes and draining and requires a lot of patience. And so I feel like that takes up a lot of my mental and emotional energy. And then after work is where I don't find myself to be like a rude person or a dismissive person, but I think some of the nice stories of like really going out of your way to lend an extra hand, like I don't know that I have the energy to do that. So many things.
Yeah. Yeah, those are great opportunities to offer ourselves the compassion. Thank you, everybody, for being here and for doing this Tonglen meditation with me tonight. We'll do a transfer of merit, and then I think the host has some announcements. So please join palms. May any merit gained from this practice be shared with all beings in all directions. May all be at peace. May all be free from suffering. Hi, everyone.